Ghana ni insa nya kalona for most of us. Ejuma ni go say.
Ane.
I didn't see the bank.
Some loan body. Amount 100,000. Audio business kakra na bia 15,000, 20,000. And our force one was 100,000. Was supposed to be about 5%. So supposed to be about 5%. I just 100,000 or the amount. Supposed to be out to 5,000 a man. In the afeno, went to your crown, 60%. Which means also 360,000, including the kind of the day. Now, one was also na
Every generation has its own dream. For our parents, it looked like getting an education, finding a stable job, building a home, raising a family. Today, the dream sounds different. So what is the Ghanaian dream? There's something that has always bothered me. People say Ghanaians don't like building anything. Really? Then who built Swami Magazine? Who built Abosokai? Who built the thousands of family businesses that still survive today? Who wakes up at 4 every morning to prepare food before most of us are even awake? That certainly doesn't sound like people who hate work. So maybe we've been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, why don't young people build? Maybe we should ask, what kind of economy are they trying to build in? Every generation inherits something. Some inherit wealth, some inherit opportunity, and some debt. So, what exactly did millennial and younger Ghanaians inherit? To answer that, we have to go back more than 40 years. So history can be funny. When you already know how a story ends, every decision starts looking obvious. But history doesn't feel obvious when you are living through it. By the early 1980s, Ghana's economy was in serious trouble. Inflation was skyrocketing, production had slowed, foreign exchange was scarce, and then the factories built by our first government were struggling. Government finances were also stretched. Imagine your family where bills are piling up, the roof is leaking, children still need feeding, and someone offers you a loan. You don't take it because life is good. You take it because your options are running out. That's where Ghana found itself. So the country turned to the IMF and the World Bank. The money came, but so did conditions. Government spending had to be reduced. Markets had to be opened, and the economy had to be liberalized. And many state-owned enterprises would be sold. If you are hearing this for the first time, it might sound reasonable. However, many economists still argue that these reforms helped stabilize the economy. Maybe we don't agree, but that's what they say. And they are not entirely wrong. Inflation eventually declined. Some sectors became more competitive. So this is a story about trade-offs, not necessarily a story of villains. Every economic decision creates winners and costs, and sometimes those costs don't appear for decades. Now imagine someone lends you money, but they don't ask you to pay it back. They tell you which furniture to sell, which rooms to rent out, how to reorganize your own house. That's roughly how structural adjustments felt. Now ask yourself this question: how many state-owned enterprises do you think Ghana eventually sold? 10, 20, 50? Try again. By 1995, 79 had been fully divested. Another 31 had been partially divested. That's about 110 public enterprises that had either changed ownership completely or no longer remained fully in state hands. Whether you believe that was necessary or not, one thing is impossible to deny. It fundamentally changed the economy future generations inherited. It killed the industrialization revolution. One condition under the agricultural sector adjustment credit, for instance, required the sale of 5 state-owned rice mills. The expectation was that private investors would modernize them, except many investors didn't want them. Now, why didn't they? Because rebuilding businesses required something Ghana didn't yet have enough of: capital, experience, and infrastructure. Years later, even the World Bank acknowledged that Ghana's private sector hadn't expanded as expected because many local investors lacked the finance and capacity to take over the opportunities that had been created. Eventually, according to the World Bank's own records, 2 of those mills were sold as scrap metal. Just pause there. Factories becoming scrap. Now, the farmer services companies face the same problems. Governments even cleared their debts. Still, investors stayed away, not because farming was a problem, but borrowing money at around 30% interest to rescue struggling businesses wasn't exactly attractive. Now, those companies had to be transferred to an association of farmers and fishermen because the original plan simply wasn't working. And then, something happened that doesn't get talked about enough. Years later, even the World Bank admitted that Ghana's private sector hadn't responded the way many expected. Not because Ghanaians lacked ideas, but because many simply lacked the capital, the equipment, the logistics, and the experience needed to replace what the state had stepped away from. That's an important detail because we've spent years telling young people to become entrepreneurs. We don't spend nearly as much time talking about the economy they inherited. And maybe that's where today's story really begins, because if history explains how we got here, it still doesn't explain why building a business in Ghana feels so difficult today. For that, we have to leave the 80s and come back home. There's something that doesn't add up. If Ghana is such a difficult place to do business, why do so many foreigners keep investing here? There are Chinese companies, we keep seeing Indian companies, day in, day out Lebanese businesses, Turkish manufacturers. They all looked at the same economy and somehow saw opportunity. Yet, we as young people, young Ghanaians, look at the same country and see an exit plan. How can both be true? The easy answer is, they are simply smarter, or bibini beye deng oriase, or the white man rules. I don't buy that. Neither should you. Because intelligence isn't the difference. The game they are playing is fundamentally different. Take borrowing money, for example. Dr. Andrew Kweku Asamoah, the man behind the famous ANC Mall, once explained it in the simplest way I've heard.
You have somebody coming from outside to do business here. He's coming from Switzerland. He are taking a loan there for 3%. You are taking a loan for 40% here. How do you work with that person? That's why foreigners are doing better, because they take loans from outside. Cheaper interest rates, long period of distance. Then you have the Ghanaian who has to go to the normal bank and take a loan. Even now that it's come, now you can't get a loan at maybe less than 25%.
It's too high.
It's so very high.
Before the first customer walks through the door, one person is already paying almost 10 times more for the money itself. So when people say Ghanaians don't build enough, sometimes I wonder, are we comparing people or are we comparing the conditions they are building under? Then there's another problem. Almost everything has to come from somewhere else. Machines, spare parts, raw materials. Even some of the products we proudly call made in Ghana begin their journey somewhere outside Ghana. That means the entrepreneur isn't just building a business. They are fighting exchange rates, import duties, shipping costs, interest payments, sometimes all at the same time. And yet people still build. That's the part we don't celebrate enough. But if money were the only problem, this documentary would end here. Money isn't the only problem, because there's something even more valuable than money, and it costs nothing. This is trust. Every successful economy runs on trust. Banks trust businesses, businesses trust suppliers, investors trust founders, founders trust employees. Without trust, money becomes expensive, and everyone starts protecting themselves. Why is it so difficult to partner up as Ghanaians to scale up faster? Are these remnants of slavery that we will prefer to partner with a foreigner than each other? Why is trust such a rare commodity? Now here's something interesting. Since 2013, the Lebanese community in Ghana has supported more than 600 Ghanaian students through scholarships. In 2026 alone, they supported 14 law students at the University of Ghana. When I first heard that, I thought, that's generous. Then I thought a bit longer. Maybe generosity is not the whole story. I think it's more about long-term thinking. Think about it. If you invest in education today, you are investing in relationships tomorrow. Whether you agree with that strategy or not, one thing is hard to ignore. They are thinking decades ahead. However, the uncomfortable question is, do we think that way about one another? Now, before anyone misunderstands me, I'm not creating a narrative about foreigners doing everything right and Ghanaians doing everything wrong. Far from that. Some of Ghana's most successful businesses started with almost nothing. One entrepreneur started with 600 cedis and an MTN loan. Another couldn't get bank financing, so he raised money from friends using structured agreements instead of relying on handshakes. Those stories are important because they remind us that the problem has never been imagination. Ghanaians have ideas. We always had ideas. The question is, how many of those ideas survive long enough to become industries? Sometimes I hear people say young people don't want to struggle anymore. Maybe not. Or maybe they've watched too many people struggle and still lose. Probably that's where the Ghanaian dream quietly changed. Is it because people stopped believing in hard work, or they started believing that hard work no longer seemed enough? I don't think the biggest thing we lost was factories. I think it was confidence. Confidence that we could build something here and that it would survive. Because dreams don't change by accident. They change after years of watching what gets rewarded and what doesn't. Think about the advice many young people grow up hearing. Find a stable job, get into government, leave if you get the chance. This seems to be the Ghanaian dream. None of those are bad pieces of advice. They are rational. They are the kind of advice parents give when they've seen too many people lose everything trying to build. And maybe that's the saddest part of this story. Not that young people dream of leaving, but that many parents encourage it. Not because they don't love Ghana, it's because they love their children. Now think, we were back to the IMF in 2015, further constricting a constricted economy. Most recently in 2022, Ghana defaulted on most of its external debt. Inflation shot up close to 50%. The cedi lost value. Then came another IMF program. Another round of difficult decisions. By 2026, the economy had recovered on paper. Inflation had fallen, the credit rating had improved, debt restructuring was largely complete. But ask someone trying to start a business during those years. The recovery didn't always feel real. Banks were cautious, credit was tight, and for many young people, the safest investment still wasn't a business, it was a plane ticket. So many families now celebrate when their children find opportunities somewhere else. Not because they've given up on Ghana, but they no longer trust Ghana to reward effort. So when someone posts, visa approved, just look through the comment section. Congratulations, you've made it, finally. Or the retweets, nobody says, why are you leaving? And understandably so, because almost everyone understands whether they've admitted it or not. What we often describe as brain drain is what I call a confidence drain. Every engineer, every nurse, every entrepreneur, every scientist who leaves or who quietly decides that their future is probably somewhere else takes something with them. And it's beyond skill. It's beyond a skill issue. It's their belief. They are taking their belief away. Now, this is probably the most important part of this docu, because at this point, someone watching is probably thinking, fine, history happened, so what? Loans happened, interest rates are high, people still succeed. Why are we talking about this? And you are not wrong, you are absolutely right. People do. There are Ghanaians building incredible businesses today. Some started with almost nothing, and some are online, some are exporting across Africa. They prove something important, that building is still possible, just not equally possible. And there's the difference. Imagine two students writing the same exam. One has electricity every night, the other studies by candlelight. If they both, you celebrate both, but you don't pretend they wrote the exam under the same conditions. That's all this documentary is saying. If you want mass growth, you must look for equity. We must push for equity. Not that success is impossible, but that the starting line has never been the same. If we intend to transform the economy, there has to be the recognition of the equity gaps and fix them. Maybe that's why I don't like calling young people lazy. Lazy people don't queue at 4 a.m. for jobs. Lazy people don't spend months applying for scholarships. Lazy people don't work 2 jobs while building a side business. That cannot be called laziness, but drive. The real question isn't whether Ghanaians are hardworking. We've answered that already. What needs asking is, what would happen if all that effort was backed by the kind of systems that help people succeed instead of simply surviving? So, maybe the Ghanaian dream isn't owning a mansion. Maybe it isn't moving abroad. Maybe it isn't a government appointment either. Maybe the actual Ghanaian dream is much simpler than we've made it. Maybe the Ghanaian dream is to believe that if you work, if you take risks, if you build something useful, your country won't make you regret it. Because that's what every dream is really built on. Hope. None of this is about blaming one generation for what an earlier one lost, or blaming a system so completely that nobody has to build anything. It's both history and what we do next. Nokore, what do you think actually breaks first for a young Ghanaian trying to build something? The money, the trust, or the story we tell ourselves about who gets to succeed? Tell us below. We'd love to hear from you.